I'd like to call the October 28th, 2024 monthly meeting of the Town of Niskuna Complete Streets Committee to order. Chapman, Jim Levy. Okay. Catherine Kuzman is here. Hello, Catherine. How are you? Tess Healy. Did we get enough from her by any chance?
I'll get my phone. You can keep calling roll. Let me go check.
Tess Healy. Brendan Kennedy is here. How are you, Brendan? Brendan's been busy raking leaves. His muscles are sore, so. Good. Carla Douglas here. Hello, Carla. Brian Doherty is here. And I would mention, I did send a nice email to Ben O'Shea, who was our co-chair. He had to resign from the committee. He just had too many other things that he had to do, and he had to hop off for the night. Privilege of the floor is open. Do we have any? Have we heard, Trish? Any citizens? Anyone here want to take the floor and say something? A privilege of the floor. Anyway, let's move on to minutes for September 30, 2024. Taking a quick look at those. I had just on line 37. I think we have 14. I know I said 9. 14 auto fatality deaths. Anyone else have any correction they want to make in our minutes for the September 30? Being none, I would like to move that the committee accept our minutes for September 30, 2024. And then any opposed?
We have a second.
Oh, I guess I need a second. Someone's word second minutes. Carl Douglas is second. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All business. Next thing is safety on Route 7. And you want to speak on the RFP submissions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, CRTC reached out to us. They had 4 submittals. I am able to share with you a link of the 4 submittals. You can review them. You can't contact the people that submitted, and you can't talk to each other about it, but you can review them, and you can send me your choice. I think there's a little rubric at the front of it that you can fill out, and that is due November. Yes, that is due November 8th to me. I'm have it due November 12th, but I'm giving you guys the 8th.
So we enter our comments or our score on here and provide.
Yeah. Yep. And actually I was just looking through. Tess requested the documents too, so I'll make sure that I sent it to her. Carla, then you have them, keep track of your hours, and we will print out hard copies for you.
Okay. In some, this is our $139,000 linkage study for folks watching the committee that the town applied for in the Capital Region Transportation Council. They're the funding authority on that for the $139,000. It's federal highway. Does it go? It does go through that.
It goes through, yes.
To prove it. You know, I think that you noted some of the things that we'd be looking at, which are like road diet and sidewalks, trees, other traffic calming things, even the possibility some medians in the road itself and down the road. And we still have the question about bicycles Is there room for bike lanes, or they still would be sidewalks or whatever? So, when the engineering firm will be doing a lot of the work on presenting some options, and then community input, and we're hopeful that either the state would find the money to do the work safety things on Route 7, and I guess part of the enhanced likelihood of that is if they're support the study and make other suggestions, and you get a lot of community input on this, so they are not pushing water back later on when they get ready to do the work, that they have something that community has reviewed and approved to see happen. And so, correction I did make is that we have had 14 traffic fatalities on Troy Road in the last 4.5 years. That's a lot, so it's definitely not safe. Anyway, and I'm grateful to everyone. I mean, each one of the proposals is probably about 40. So it's 5 of them.
Four. Right on it.
Okay.
It's labeled REI.
We have Creighton Manning. Oh, I'm sorry. We have 1, 2. And then we have
I'll go look.
I put them all 5 if you want.
Oh, you did? Oh, maybe it's fine.
Yes, you may, but don't say them out loud. No.
It's just weird because I thought they were in the floor. Believe you, Bill.
Oh, you know, I'm an old politician, so, yeah, that's those books. And that's. Thank you, thank you. So, and do keep track of your time, because we, as a community, have made a commitment that we're gonna invest in this, and that our time counts as dollars, so that's our, goes to our.
So if we do review them, and you want the comments due by 11/8 on that matrix, so do you take the comments, all of them together, and then decide which ones to submit?
No, I'm gonna give them to CRTC,
Okay,
and they're gonna decide if the complete streets comments count kind of as one. Like that's all of your comments, but you balance it out as one, or
right.
if it'll all just tally up as individual reviewers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They haven't actually decided, because I don't think they know how many of us would be filling it out.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
But if we have like 9 people or 7 people filling it out, then
Right.
they might give us like a weighted average.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Tess Healy and Jim Levy have now joined the meeting. And we just, we've been discussing safety on Route 7, and mentioned that we have 5, well, let's see, RTC has heard from 5 engineering firms that would like to perform the tasks in the $139,000 linkage study on Troy Road. And responsibilities, if several of us are working on, is to review those and give Laura's input on that's maybe our prices or rank and whatever. And so Laura sent out an email that about them all. Also, I think there's a little protocol and
Oh, okay.
it's all in. Okay. And then, you know, as I mentioned, our hope is with input from the community that if we apply for federal money, we've already done this, so that will be in place. And we reach out to the state to get them to do this, the fact that they've been participants in the study, that our community input, that it'll make it more likely that we get them.
Did you get the link to Ryan Spencer's email?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We've already, approved the minutes and, we're ready to move on to the draft comprehensive plan, mobility and transportation.
So,
Hello, I guess I would say that we, had a nice sit down with, committee. And, you want to say something first?
Sure. I mean, I think it was a constructive meeting. One of the things that came out was that we will be developing a list of recommendations and that will go at the end of the chapter. But a complete list of proposed projects will go on a separate list and not necessarily in the document itself. That way we can update it, annually or how often we choose to update it. Because if it goes as a complete list goes in the plan itself, then it becomes a more rigorous process to update it. So we don't want to,
But they did say they didn't want an appendix
We are-
project, and so.
but I don't think it's going to be a complete
Okay.
list of projects. Anyway, that's one of the things that was discussed. And the other thing is the recommendations. The recommendations going to go at the end, and we still have to get together and finalize the draft chapter. So it's
I
Carla,
draft
Joe,
chapter
myself.
to the comp plan committee
Okay,
people and ask for comments by October 31st.
October 31st, that's great.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
I know Clark's actually working on it now,
Good.
and, if we get, even just one or two sets of comments, then we could schedule a meeting and then try and take those comments and kind of flesh out a.
Yes.
My portion is evolving a little bit. I found the Federal Highway Administration guidebook for measuring multimodal connectivity. And they give more of like a framework that like 5 core components for looking at it. And I know that's very extensive and, Jim, you're the expert on that, but it's like, how extensive, like in terms of framing the whole connectivity chapter, like I kind of was going off of what Bill did and Kathleen did and sort of a direct, like kind of trying to go one step further and connecting and also, looking at our complete streets map and our goals and kind of going and exploring areas by foot and by bike, sort of looking at things firsthand. But they actually, it is helpful to look at, like they have like 5 components for connectivity and they overlap with, stuff that we've done like with common sense, I guess, and just analysis, like, but some of it's helpful. I think examples like loop directness is one component. And I think they give an example, like, people won't walk 0.3 miles out of the way, that kind of thing. So they actually have, criteria to follow. And so I'm not sure how detailed, if I want to change the framework because
Well, I think it's good to introduce it, to talk about what the feds say connectivity is and what some of the elements are. And my guess as an expert, Carla, that you've incorporated all those elements in your text. And we just need a 1-page explanation of what connectivity is. And actually, if we've missed something, then it's a chance to see what the feds are doing.
Looking at this, there's definitely some things that are missed. There's some things we've covered, like you've covered in your analysis, safety analysis. There's so much overlap between the 3 sections, and like you looked at like Balltown Road, how much of it has percentage or mileage.
Yeah, only 20% has got unlockable thing on it, and it's a busy north-south corridor. It's great for cars, but not so great for people.
Right. So it might be taking some of that information and organizing it into these concepts. But, and I also did some tables that I don't think went into my document.
So do you guys want to just think about dates for the week, kind of the week after this? This week is the Halloween week, so week after.
Yeah, we
I mean,
do want
You
some,
wanted to be there, so you
Yeah.
offer the dates
Okay.
because if your schedule is probably a little more restricted than ours. Us retirees.
Yeah, one thing, I mean, if we're looking at those proposals, like, that's gonna be a lot of time. I looked at everything. That's gonna take some time, but it's actually helpful because you learn a lot when you're doing it.
Of what they're looking at and what. we're
And
talking about.
examples and, yeah.
I mean, we might need a little more time, as Carla says, if reviewing the proposals is, we have to have that by the 6th of November, so that's
Yeah.
8th, okay, so that's a couple hundred pages, but. So,
Well, that's okay. I mean, if you guys want to do 2 weeks, it's just.
I would prefer more time. If the other people want to give it. Oh, okay.
So the week after, I think is. the week before. It's beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, let's,
But anyway, Dart, that's the comp plan committee did say they wanted to see some e-bikes. And then, they also had to work on intersections. They asked us at our meeting on June 18 to say more about what some of the problem intersections, some are not so much problem because we've done something. So say what constructions, what
it's
state
the
needs to be.
e-bike. But state regs.
Yes,
It's gonna take longer for them, to come
Yeah.
up with some policies.
yeah,
Right. So,
and, just say. I gave a copy to Brendan and, see the 2013 chapter on mobility and transportation. I can drop one off. This is just a draft of October 13 of where we've come so far. So I would be drop off at least the mobility and transportation chapter. So you see what we did in 2013, what we're doing now. And, do you have any thoughts? I mean, you're coming in after we've done a lot of work, but just take a look and see if it's way off the beam, or if you have a thought about something, or an intersection or a road or whatever, say something more. You certainly do that. Well, anyway, we still have some more work to do. Get it through, and it comes up. We are making progress, and Catherine is doing editing work on the document as she gets it, so she's straightening out our input. Okay. Any further comment on mobility and transportation? Okay. How about if we move on to awarded sidewalk design, Palmer, Birchwood, and Cornelius? It's like, you can't have an interaction with Bill without walking. It's some paper. Anyway, the town board did, adopt a resolution where they agreed to, hire engineering folks to, one, do a design for Birchwood Lane. Also another design for Cornelius, and we had submitted a sidewalk on both of those as part of the Quality Communities Grant. And our associates in Glenville got some money out of that program. To sidewalks to schools in Glenville, and we applied under the same category, but we didn't get the money. And Laura's recommendation was, well, we have money in the budget. Let's use it. And so we have those two there. And also on Palmer Avenue, we have a sufficient money to do the design, and then also we review the work that's going to be done there. So one block segment that's on Palmer Avenue between Story Avenue and Grand Boulevard. There's going to be more walking to schools. There's quite a bit already, but that's now it's about a 2-foot asphalt strip. And so that would be converted to concrete sidewalk. And then I think we're doing a little bit of work over in front of the school, kind of a concrete lip on the other side, and you get a crosswalk. I think there's a painted crosswalk there now, but you got a nicer looking one. Are we also thinking about a crosswalk on Grand Boulevard, a better one there, so that it's important to Grand Boulevard, yeah. Yeah, so in other words, we'll get good crosswalks on either side of this one block segment, but Grant will do one on Story Avenue. Tommy will do. And then the handout I gave you lists the tasks and the engineering firms that try to do the work. So if you're interested, you can certainly take a look at it.
It's just, there were 3 engineering firms that bid, but Weston and Sampson was the lowest bidder. So, budget was a big issue here, so very important. We are going to send letters out to the residents, letting them know that the survey for these is gonna happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Trish already emailed the people on Palmer, because we're obviously starting there. There's actually only 2 houses that are affected on Palmer. So those letters went out in the mail this morning, and then we're just gonna modify them a little bit and send letters out to Birchwood and to Cornelius. We just want to let people know that there's gonna be people in their neighborhood surveying and stuff like that, but also make clear to Birchwood and Cornelius that this is actually just design. Because, I know there's a number of people on Cornelius that really want the sidewalk, so they might get really excited. But design is still good, just to set expectations.
I was just saying one, I mean, Weston Sampson does good work, so
Yeah,
the sign
great.
is not an issue. The other thing I was gonna suggest is, because I had a conversation yesterday, when these guys are out surveying, they could wear something that says Weston and Sampson on them. I think it would be useful, because I've heard a lot of people saying that National Grid's walking around changing meters and they're not seeing anything on them that identifies them as National Grid, and they're wondering why they're walking around. It'd just be good for them to identify themselves clearly, so they don't get maybe mistaken as National Grid. They're not gonna be on people's properties, obviously, other than the sidewalk, but for a lot of people say these random people are walking around. It's like, well, I saw a badge on the guy that came to my house, but they're not wearing a jacket or anything like that. And I'm sure these guys will have, requested that sign, but
I
There's just a
gave
lot.
them a stack of my cards like this big.
they're probably gonna get questions on second. People are like, well, what are these people walking around my house? What are they doing? What is it mixing your meters?
Yeah, but that's a good idea. I'll tell them to wear vests too.
Anyway, while we're still,
He said he had two
Especially
things.
around the school. Well, the other one was just Weston Sampson's.
Oh,
Maybe a little bit, but they didn't.
Jim Levy did send me a note that I forwarded to the committee from the superintendent of schools, Carl Mummenthay, saying that they had good success on work that they're doing, and they've been able to move up their construction plans. And so all elementary schools, so in fall 2025, which is a year from now, elementary schools are going to be K to 5. I mean, 5th grade will still be in the elementary schools, 25, 26, 26, 27. But instead of 27, all 7th and 8th graders will be now going to Iroquois Middle School a year from now. And so, we've been talking about some things, that could be done to smooth the way to both Van Antwerp Middle School and to Iroquois. And, we've kind of had some discussions about things, connections that we wanted to see. And, just stand and look at this map for 1 second, and I'll just point out a couple things, or I can recite them as we go along. But we had our bigger connection to get to Iroquois Middle School, basically Knott Street, taking Knott Street east over the Fox Hollow Road, then Fox Hollow all the way down to Sandra Lane, then Sandra Lane to Hempstead, and then through River Road Park. And then River Road Park would be an asphalt connection going over to Rosendale Elementary School. And then I think it's in place now that the parking lot in Rosendale Elementary, they now have an asphalt strip that takes you over to Iroquois. So really, you have a busy road to cross at not, but there's a push button light there now. Van Antwerp is is a busy road, and I think there's a crosswalk there. There's not a light there, but if you had someone that was 7th or 8th grade, that would be manageable. Then Fox Hollow it's a town road. I mean, obviously there's town traffic with cars on it. Then you get to Sandra Lane, and then you get down to Hempstead Road. And so if it's a year from now, one of the thoughts that we had was getting through River Road Park. There's kind of an asphalt loop in the park now. I mean, you enter the park and there's the softball fields. There's a asphalt loop that I think it goes all the way around here. And then there's behind the softball fields, and there's a pavilion and playground equipment down here. And what our request was kind of two things. One, to get over to Iroquois, it's kind of the back way in. We asked the school district if they would improve or do a path that would really go from kind of the playground back to the town property line at River Road Park. In other words, there's a little bit of an asphalt stub from the town park that comes part of the way over towards Rosendale. And, it's wet. Some wet spots in here. We might even have to see about a wood bridge here or something. But we asked the school district, they haven't done it, if they would do a piece that would be a bike path that would kind of run along the playground. And then there's a set of trees there along the trees, so that once a biker got through the park, they would ride here, and then there's an asphalt path that takes you over to Iroquois Middle School. So you'd be able to ride from Old Niskayuna all the way to the school, basically with, a couple busy roads to get across, but eminently doable. And the same with, even if you were up on Hillside Avenue, down to Niskayuna Drive, over on Morrow, then you pick up Orchard Park, which brings you down to the bike path here in front of Town Hall, another way to get over there. You've done it, good. How was it? Good. Now, do you need knobby tires, or can you ride a 10-speed through River Road Park, or?
As long as it wasn't really wet, I think. So it's generally like kind of hard packed in the forest, but it's fine.
It's the connection between.
I was
there
gonna say, but
and
it's
the
a
school.
field when
The
you get to
field
the
at
school,
the end.
right?
Yeah, so I agree that Bill's idea is good to have it not be a field.
Well, I think it's time to ask.
Yeah.
In other words, I think if there are either sand, I don't have the answer to River Road Park if this is soggy or muddy, or if kids ride it, would they get a strip of mud up the back of a, pardon me?
Between the park and the school.
Okay.
It's like 100, maybe 50
Yeah,
yards.
the part that you said.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very-
Well, but I think if the town's willing to do its part, Mr. Momente and the members of the school board are very supportive of this. I think if we said, look, you've moved up the schedule, you have 7th and 8th grade going to Iroquois, there are some ways for people to bike to get to the school safely, and we would like to see them used. And so,
Do you think that, this not being paved discourages bikers, or do you think it's?
It's easy to ride around in the forest.
It's pretty packed on it.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. It can get wet, but the biggest part is between the
Is
town land
between
and
the school and the land?
It's just like a swamp back there.
Yeah, I know, it's just like a field.
That
They
would have to
don't
be
mow
raised.
it that often either, so I think it can get like really long.
well, I guess I'm wondering, should we be asking our Assemblyman Steck for some money to fix this? Should we certainly want to ask the school district, but Metroplex, or ask the town for a little money, or since it's coming up next fall, and this is kind of the link in here that makes the good thing happen. And so I'm sort of like, let's start asking if there's a piece that needs to get fixed. We'll certainly ask the school district to do their piece, and let's do our piece.
In that area also serves as a cross-country home for the high school as well. They do their meets there.
Cross country, they love going through mud. It's a badge, it's like a baseball player, you got mud on your uniform, you're playing the game 100%. Same across
No,
country.
it'll be a consideration. That's on. So if you were to pave it, I think you might have a little pushback or like long,
Yeah.
some room for them. I do know last year some kids were running through that and lost their shoes and ran barefoot back and then went back and got their shoes because it's so wet back in that one spot.
It's right in here.
Yeah, it's really, it's literally, no, it's like right on the line between where the trail goes through between the town property. There's a connection. Someone dumped
Oh,
stone
it's
there.
down here.
Yeah, the connection.
See, it's,
between-
it's wet here on school property and wet here.
So somewhere in the past, the town put stone down through
Yeah,
that,
so-
you know, and there are signs there that say this way into Iroquois.
You know what makes me drier though? You know how you can like walk through the hemlocks and stuff over here?
Just try to go that way.
Yeah, and then you could come out like there. It might be less of a lift for them.
That's what I would do personally if I was a student.
Kind of pushed on bikes, because I mean.
I think most of your argument's gonna be over here. 'Cause my daughter now, unfortunately, is not gonna be able to walk to school. She's got to take the bus, drive it. But she's not gonna ride this whole thing. There is a pretty decent hill here
Yeah,
down,
it's a big
and then
hill.
a pretty big hill here as well.
Yeah.
She's
Well, there's another
there's
approach
no way
right
she's got
here,
the time in the morning.
that if you could get over to Hilltop, which you
With
got
her
Van
fully
Antwerp
loaded
Middle
backpack.
School.
Their fully loaded backpack and her violin. It's just not gonna happen, unfortunately. It's just too far away. But it's.
Every day, but there might be some
It's a connection
days.
needs to be done. It's a connection that needs to be put in there, but I think the argument is really more for everybody to understand. This, I think, is a little bit distracting.
Well, another one that I looked at that I just drove of getting here is you have Van Antwerp Middle School, so even eventually, you know, fifth and sixth, but there's a sidewalk and then an asphalt path from CVS that goes down really to Hilltop Avenue. And then once you're on Hilltop, it's Hilltop to Wemple,
Hilltop is
Waymer.
almost hilltop for middle school.
I mean, then you're talking about 7 graders. It's something like with the backpack.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying,
You're right.
we're gonna identify a trail. And, you know, if there are some ambitious kids that want to bike, I mean, it's part of recommending a trail. And I mean, when you look at the climate events that are happening around,
You're something. Give some of these kids.
Well, that's all I'm saying. I think the focus really is that connection between the
Yeah.
two, because this already exists. The roads are already here. They're not that busy. And it's really collecting the kids here. There may be some kids, but from time to time, but I think our main focus is decided.
yeah, I only talk about this trail because it's already there. It's just, and then, you know, there's a little bit, if the land around CVS gets developed, then we certainly want to make sure that we get our trail coming down this way. But, you know, even this, it's like, could we get a painted crosswalk at Hilltop, or is that not enough traffic there? I mean, I guess if it's just there, so, but I mean, it's passable now. It's passable now. So it's another way.
Well, yeah, I guess you were just talking about, talking to the school about having them do their part. I think that their interest is really just going to be if they get kids over. I think this is great, this whole plan, and we do need to talk about that overall. But the focus to really, I think, should be to make this.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I'm
And that's what
saying,
we should be putting.
this is the hard one right here, and I'm just throwing it out. Well, who do we ask? And we're spending money. I mean, we don't have a budget item as there as I know for Complete Streets. I mean, should we ask the town board to put some money into the budget for Complete Streets to do this work right here? Because in August of 2025, 7th and 8th graders will be going to Iroquois Middle School, and this is a safe way to get there without being on the road.
And do they still have all their equipment at school right now?
I think there's a lot of stuff still
I mean,
there.
they could just do some regrading right now.
I mean, I think the town board is very supportive. As a matter of fact, I would be happy to sit down with some school board members and outline this and say, look, you know, if Mr. Mumentay is amenable and you are, you know, you can find some money to do that piece. But I think if the school does their piece, the town's got to be ready to do the piece on its property.
So you think it just requires some regrading? I mean.
Well, it's wet, as Jim says. It probably, you'd look,
I'm thinking that maybe we could just do some engineering there, some design work, see what the options are before we start asking for money. Because we really don't know how much money we're asking for. We have to have a design in mind.
Simple answer is just extending the packed stone that they already have there. It will allow kids to ride on as long as the right stone is put down and they can be compacted. It essentially sits like pavement. You don't have to pave it. It would require minimal engineering. Just to put a little bit in there and maybe a small culvert, just to let the water run through once it.
Ray Smith has got some stone. He's got dump trucks. Just drive it back. Lay the stone down. I mean, something is better than nothing, especially if we learn how much time it takes to do things. That, you know, if you get something that the earth will pack down a little bit and,
There's a little work that would be needed, but that would be the easiest thing to do and not talk about paving. Just
okay.
make it usable most of the year.
So like, it's almost entirely of the school property.
Yeah.
Oops.
Where is can you see the asphalt path there, Jim? That goes
You
all the
can.
way?
There isn't one, but it's this
So
right here that comes
our-
through.
I don't know, I'm guessing that's probably like 50 feet, maybe less.
It's just always-
And then the rest of the trail is all on.
That's where it's.
And this is what really needs to be improved, like, I mean, yeah, I think the town can commit to its piece because it's pretty minimal.
So we asked the school if they would put a asphalt path along here, because here's where the trail comes across and you can see there's maybe a little, I don't know if there's a wood bridge or there's a little something there or not, but we'd run along here and then here gets you over to, yeah.
To your, or would you connect it to the driveway?
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, they actually have a long way to go, like, they would probably, like, you know, come along this playground here probably.
Well, the reason we asked them is because when they were doing the parking lots, they had all this excess asphalt. We were just like, put the stone down and just take old crappy asphalt and put a path there.
Yeah, they did make a road from here to here.
Yeah, so
There's a
that's
road.
already in place. So once you get to Rosendale, you can get over to Iroquois. And we just need the path. And I think it's down along here. So I think all you really need to do is scooch down here and get to there and then back over to.
You see those trees? It's drying the trees. Well, but they don't need to, all they need, if they just even made a, I don't know, a path, like along, just that one part between the trees and there, that's only what part is right
This
in
is
there.
wet.
Yeah. Like after that, you can
Uh,
ride your fence.
Yeah, this is.
It's not wet over, I thought it was wet right here too, as well as being
Yeah.
wet in here.
Yeah.
Two schools, is that part of the plan to make a circular drive for entrance and exit?
It's already in place.
So they're actually using it that way where they come in one way, go out.
Yeah.
Iroquois.
Yeah, so my son will go in Rosendale and go straight through it to get into Iroquois because he's at Iroquois.
Okay.
Would bikers be
When
going
you're-
against traffic?
When you're doing parent drop off though, they don't want you to use that connection.
No.
No. They don't.
Well,
Maybe it's very
employees are
different,
using it.
But yeah,
but
like,
maybe
for parent
for-
drop off, they're still just having them circle at Iroquois. You're not allowed to use that trail up to Rosedale. There's a big sign.
They're probably trying to
Objective
keep us
is
separated
to
then.
Use the circle.
Yeah,
ultimately.
you're not allowed. There's a big sign that says don't drive here. And sometimes there's even a gate.
Got the gate there.
Yeah, they have a gate.
I can see it close.
Oh, you mean so bikers couldn't get from?
No, bikers can. I'm just saying, that for vehicles right now, they're not doing a circle between Iroquois and Rosedale, but yeah.
The gate they have is like the one they have in front of the football field in high school property. The edge of the parking lot. Ball field. It's just like a big
Kind of like a
tube,
barn.
kind of
gate.
swings over.
It's pipe.
Just like,
But for the intrepid child cyclists, if they're really on doing this, I don't think that's gonna stop them. Like I mentioned before, like, yeah, if you just continue through the forest and pop out on the backside, then you can go close to the building, come out and it's generally dry there. So,
Yeah, on this other side.
yeah, right there.
Yeah, there's
Right
a
there.
nice,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
like
can
it
come
comes
that
out like
way.
right here.
That doesn't,
Then you just have this little tiny thing to hit the asphalt.
that's part of your whole journey to school. So,
I know, but I would probably tell my daughter to do the other one because this is so wet.
yeah,
Like I would have her go through the hemlocks over here and then you pop out somewhere over here. and
it's finish the trail. They run that one too. It's just, it's a lot narrower than that, but they do run it. So there's what's there.
Yeah.
That one you would not.
Support a bike or not?
That one you would not be. It's not-
yeah, like
it's
when
not
you
possible.
exit the forest, It's a little bumpy.
Yeah, it's kind of like. There is a sassafras tree right there though.
Sassafras.
Well, so what's the committee do? I mean, would the committee deputize me to talk to Carl or talk to the school board members to ask them, you know, what could we do here or, yeah.
I think it's worth at least asking the question, you know, the timeline's moved up. What are we looking at in terms of all the discussions we've had in the past?
I mean, they might like it just so it's not so wet there. Like, I feel like if they just dumped a few trucks of fill and then put a couple inches of topsoil and seeded it, it would just be a general improvement to the school property.
Ride a bike over that or not? Or what would they do?
Yeah, then you'd be able to ride a bike.
Only there's one else.
Yeah.
They just made like, yeah, like gravel stone dust or something.
I mean,
As long as it's not what?
it's, could be.
Oh,
wet.
yeah, well, it might be. But it's very well mowed, so.
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to tell,
Well, why don't you come with me and we'll do it together.
well, if we figured out how big of area it is and how much we wanted to raise it, we could tell him how many trucks of fill we wanted.
Well, I almost think first we gotta get the school, we have to get Mr. Mumate and the school board members on board. And so that's having them look at this map and what we're trying to do. Then they talk to their engineers or their school people or their grounds people and say, well,
The area of like, for engineering, given that all this is going in for like a block. I don't want, I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, let me just.
well, it's not the
decide
engineers
what
like
to do.
getting a full muffler and asking them, how do I need a muffler? You're lucky you made it here. Even if it's a small portion, but,
Well, Palmer's, design and construction inspection. Because we're gonna try really hard to, the bid in by December. I don't know if we'll be able to go and check.
well, what I was talking to school also is that the town did pay for the work on Plum to get from Van Antwerp to Hillside. We are paying for, you know, the work on Palmer Avenue to get up and county's doing Grand Boulevard. So it's okay for us to say to the school, you need to spend some money to get students safely to school building yourself. We're doing so and, you know, we're leaning on the county to do things.
We have our
Maybe
stamp of
talk to
approval.
PTO there because they build, you know, all kinds of things on school property.
We chose the last resort.
I think
I'm not talking about the whole point.
it'd be useful to go back to the letter that we sent them when we were actually looking at the school improvement, because we drew that connection on it. So I mean, like, I.
Yes,
remember
no,
that-
we asked 2 years ago.
Just like, you're moving up the timeline, the map that we gave you, and if you have any
Send me
updates.
an email, I'll go with you. Nice. I'll put on a collared shirt.
All right, and I'll try and send you guys that old map that we gave them.
You know, it's going the other way too, for sixth graders that want to get to, and eventually fifth and sixth that want to get to Van Antwerp. It's almost like looking at the Van Antwerp campus to see, you know, what can we do, which is why I mentioned a few things just on the list here about, e-bikes. They didn't want you to saw, like you're doing the work on e-bikes.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can, yeah, kind of took a look at just similar one. I wanted to throw Saratoga in there. I know it's a little different because they've got a their area, but you know, it's. I think we all kind of know that we have to follow the state with what's going on and only can make improvements in there. I think we talked last time, were you saying that we can find people who have a vested interest in these things? And I think CDTA is partnering with a few of these municipalities to do to get some of their e-bike stations in there.
Couple of districts.
CDT, yeah.
No,
right?
CDTA.
Oh.
No, CDTA does
CDTA is
the
the
money.
bus.
It's like the last
Yeah,
mile.
yeah.
It probably is. Is it? Yeah, it's
CDTA.
CDTA.
Solicitation of work. That's what I did.
Yeah. I thought, then for some reason I thought I said CDPHP.
Yeah.
Well, but they're on the bike.
Right, they're the stuff.
Yeah.
It's run through CDTA and they've got
Is this part, or is this Sandy Misowitz right here that doing the training? I mean,
That's
are
something
they?
separate. That's when the town is.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that, I saw that. I really wanted to get to that, there was like Capitol Center, there was like the,
HGCC.
yeah, well, there was something last week at the Capitol Center, like an e-bike convention.
Well, that was the New York Bicycling Coalition
Right.
annual,
Yeah, annual.
meeting.
But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of, we've got the trail and I hear all of the safety issues that have, I've rode one for the first time. It's my 73-year-old mother's. It is quick. That first like giddy up to go. So just anecdotally, those things start up fast and you feel like when you get to 12 miles an hour very quickly and then you're feeling okay. You're keeping up with my 7-year-old, but that initial getting going is quick. It can take people, it takes a lot of people by surprise, me by surprise. And it's got a noise to it. So, I think there are some, themes, I don't really want to go through, we can go through each of these municipalities, but kind of the bigger thing that I was kind of seeing was, and I think it's a place where we can lead on is like how we're going to use these shared path and like coming up with, some shared path policies where we're mindful about the fact that these are a way for, all sorts of folks, seniors, people with disabilities or some, mobility issues to get around. And we want them to be able to use the trails and paths that we have.
How do we enforce the speed limit here? Up under?
Have to put the police there. And that's for any bicycle, it's an e-bike or it's a regular bike. It doesn't matter. And that's the distinction we have to have. And we've had a lot of discussions about this with one of my clients that were DOTs involved. You can't differentiate between e-bikes and regular bikes with speed. If you're going to enforce speed, you enforce speed, period. It's like others on the road, motorcycles. It's just, if that's what you want to do. But the only way to do it is with police down there and speed
Can
traffic.
you put the
Speed traffic
electronic
of
things
bicycles
like
is very difficult.
cameras? You use cameras like a speed detection thing, so
What are you
Takes
going
a
to
picture?
write the ticket?
you take a picture of the person.
And
They're going over.
I got my helmet on, I've got my sunglasses on, license plate.
We have a facial recognition program.
For this,
Enforcement
yes.
enforcement is the same as sport, it's just,
Yeah.
enforcement is not.
Make the decision to really. Right? I mean, is it, how often have there been complaints about e-bike?
Jessica Brenner is saying.
it just works right.
Well, comments or-
Enough that it reached the level of the town board.
On the trail.
On the trail?
Trail, yes. And they also had so they had, an accident with a scooter, I think it was, and then also an e-bike kind of. And, yeah, they were pretty bad accidents, I think. So,
See, bike class 3, is it a throttle bike or is it a
Yeah.
water?
I don't know the bike one as well, but
That
the
makes a big
scooter one
difference.
was definitely a throttle.
It's illegal in the state of New York.
Yeah.
It's a one-way course.
So was it by themselves actually? Or did they go to somebody
Laura
else?
gave you the
Um,
flyer, actually describes those, what the different classes are, but 1 and 2 are pedal assist. 3 is a throttle bike, which is essentially an electric motorcycle. They are not legal in New York State, even though that's what everybody's riding. So if someone gets in a crash with an electric throttle e-bike, they're riding an illegal bike.
Yeah, I
What
put
you do about
the,
that? I don't know how the enforcement is going on that, but it's the type 3s are the problems.
I put the Brian research, then Jim gave me this. This is, what did my sample stand for?
It's the New York State Association of Metropolitan Planning.
Okay,
Organizations.
yeah.
We made this for them 2 years ago.
And then this gives you a lot of like really good summary, like outreach. And then I actually, just so you know, and it does say here that the class 3 are not allowed.
This is gonna be an issue is this gonna be a mode of transportation that's gonna become popular soon? Is there somebody working on a new product that's gonna be, the Christmas present that everybody wants to get in a year and a half, right? Like, so, kind of saying like, are we looking at an issue before it actually happens? Probably, maybe, but we also could be on the same side of that coin, we could also be, getting ahead of an issue that, could be coming soon because, I don't know, I know my kids are, they seem a little less, they seem a little less of wanting to do the hard things. So an e-bike, could be, a really interesting thing for a lot of, kids to take on and, allowing people to get there faster, but, that's,
It's really good for mobility, no question, but again, anyone under 18 isn't allowed to ride them legally. So that's the same thing, like I'm gonna get my daughter an e-bike, she'll ride over to Iroquois next year every day. She's not gonna ride a regular bike there. But legally, she can't ride an e-bike, even at a level 1 or 2, so. If the kid's on an e-bike, again, it's illegal, but what are you gonna do for enforcement? And,
I mean, you
get
could
on an
put
e-bike, and most
you could just
bikes.
put up
are not-
signs.
yeah.
I mean, you don't want to take Niskayuna Police Force off Route 7 and put them on the bike path.
She's got a bunch of kids
Yeah.
on e-bikes,
Yeah,
which
you
is
have
hard
to
to
take
distinguish
care.
from regular bikes now anyway. They all have such fat tubes that you
Yeah.
really hard to distinguish them now. Some of the higher end ones from,
Yeah.
non.
People aren't dying on their e-bikes if they're just on the trails. Right, but if you're taking, people die all the time in motor vehicle accidents. So I just think the more people that are out of like a 2-ton vehicle and on just a little e-bike, it's just overall it's safer. So I would be cautious to just, dissuade people in any way.
Based on what I've heard, these electric scooters are causing more problems than the bikes.
The
And that's
scooter
mainly
was the
because
worst
the
accident.
scooters, when they hit a rock or something, are much more likely to flip over or fall over or anything. On a bicycle, you have more weight and you've got better balance, so I guess it's easier to kind of deal with issues like that.
So are some communities just have the scooters put regulations on them?
Oh yeah, so this is in the packet too. The only one I could really find that was like, I thought a reasonable code was from New Rochelle, and they actually have areas for electric bikes and areas for electric scooters. The code is pretty similar, but like for scooters, they have places where they're allowed and places where they're not allowed.
Scooters are coming, if you haven't heard. CBTA is piloting e-scooters as part of their e-bike program. So they're in Schenectady, they're in Troy, and I think they're in Albany pilots right now.
Is it
Schenectady-
Are they on the
Schenectady
roads
just
or
rolled-
can you
yeah,
ride
yeah,
a scooter?
Schenectady just rolled them out last week.
right.
Yeah, so they're coming, and you were talking about the
Right,
technology. The technology is changing every year. I know a guy in Ithaca who's got an e-bike, he can actually switch it between pedal assist and a throttle. So how do you go after him?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right, because you can
Exactly.
turn off the electric assist, the throttle part of it and use it as an electric assist. So I've got an electric assist bike, but if he wants to use the throttle, he's in Ithaca, he wants to get up the hill before now. Whatever up he goes. But it's like a $3,000 e-bike. Not everybody's buying $3,000, $4,000 bikes. But the technology is changing every single year. So it's coming, whether you want it or not. No question.
Yeah, and the issue of folks, it's almost like it's new. So it's a lot of people's reactions to something that's new, it's different. It could be unsafe, but if, we highlight some of the accessibility issues and some of the environmental impacts that it can have, and have an education piece where we're educating people about how to use it safely, educating people how to, be polite on the paths and, sure, there are going to be bad apples, which is how, a lot of things get brought up to,
I think
certain
if you're
areas, right?
walking on the Mohawk
Yeah.
Hudson bike path and somebody hits you in the back with
Sure.
an e-bike. then,
I've seen, and anybody who's been on that path or anyone who's ever been walking and knows that there can be cyclists that are even more aggressive and fast than they're on a pedal bicycle, they're out there on their Tour de France that they're doing on the email. Going.
There have been cycling deaths.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
people running into little islands and.
Yeah, and it's, and with, at least with e-bikes, there's a little bit of a noise, kind of like that you can hear, whereas, I don't know, sometimes when I'm pushing my kids and somebody comes flying past you, you're like, don't even have a minute to react, and it's like, well, if I had just stepped out over here, I'm gonna have this
Right.
person flip over and this crash is gonna happen, so I think there's an education piece for this, that if this does become something that's going to get widespread acceptance, that the community is going to need to have. both people who are walking and people who are actually going to be using this.
Yeah, I noticed one of the things in Glenville, you said working with the county on Mohawk Hudson bike hike trail regulations. I mean, I almost wonder, is this something that the county is going to be doing some regulations on where it will be countywide? And so if we spoke to them about, they're already working on something for Glenville. If you ask the county, they'd say, well, we've already crossed the bridge on a lot of these things with Glenville.
I think they were
Same
talking about
as-
just putting a speed limit.
What's the
Across the board, you mean, for what?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
what was the trail in this community? The town doesn't own it.
we own some of it and the state owns some of it and GE owns some of it actually, and we have a lease it.
So the only people, my understanding, who can put any regulations on a trail are the owners of that trail. In the town, we have 3 owners. So we'd have to do it for our sections, the county would have to do it for theirs, and
Well, we want
State.
something
It's
that's,
state.
we want the same thing all the way. along.
absolutely we do, but I'm saying with those different segments, and so this was part of the conversation we had when I was working with the MPO staff on creating this flyer you're looking at, is that almost all municipalities have multiple owners of the trail, especially the Empire State Trail. So they don't want to have, say, just the town enact a law, but then as soon as you cross that border onto the state-owned trail, it doesn't exist anymore, but nobody knows where that border is, and it doesn't really make any sense. It's only on paper.
And then what do you do about enforcement too? I
So you're
mean,
gonna
that's
enforce
the
this
thing,
section
and
of
then-
it here, but not that section,
Right,
and then the section on the other side.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's part of the problems, and that's why part of this we put together, if you look at the next page about the do's and don'ts, for local ordinance or no local ordinance. So this came about from discussion by MPO staff, and it was mostly led by Adirondack Glens Falls AGFTC, because they were having real issues up there.
Well, what
but-
are their
but
issues though?
it's-
You say they're having real issues up there.
They get a lot of complaints, people
Okay.
going fast on e-bikes, but
Yeah.
people are going fast anyway, and a lot of municipalities are saying, what do we do about these complaints? Like the municipalities don't know how to deal with complaints of speeds or e-bikes versus other bikes. So this was put together by the MPO staff with some, input from DOT. But it's tough, because not everyone owns every mile of trail within a municipality.
State says already.
Well, the blue was the, I guess I'd say that's what MPO staff generally agreed is when you don't need an ordinance in place.
The state already requires them.
They have minimal operating speeds. E-bikes are not allowed on roads over 30 miles an hour. Doesn't make any sense because then regular bikes are. Why? But that's the way the law was written. The law says you can't ride an e-bike on a road that has a speed
So you
limit over
can take an
30.
e-bike from,
You couldn't take it all the way down Bolton Road.
you can take it from, First Connect Road all the way.
Not
down.
legally on the road, no,
Yeah,
it's over
okay.
30. It's a really weird quirk in the law. So that's where this is very.
So the 3 boxes down there on the blue, it says prohibit e-bikes, so that's one option from sidewalks or from trails and paths. Meaning, would we, if we wanted to, would we just prohibit them on the Mohawk Hudson bike path?
You have to look at the bottom, no. Current New York State legislation appears to effectively ban e-bikes from the facilities as they're not specifically defined or permitted in list of locations where an e-bike can operate. That's what the law kind of says. You know what else written? It is not totally straightforward, and that's why so many people are having trouble with this. It's not clear, and it treats e-bikes differently than regular bikes. Why can we allow a regular bike on Balltown, but an e-bike couldn't be where you hit 45 miles an hour? It doesn't really make sense. But you can. But that would just be someone's fault on it. That's just.
It's like your. And people actually speak up when I didn't say on your left loud enough, and he's like, you gotta speak up. But like,
We had this discussion a couple of years ago. We talked about flashing those signs, right? We talked about, sign design for just general rules of the road. And the thing, and then the county ended up doing their own plan. Yeah, the county does their own plan and started putting them up. That's just general rules of the road for everybody. Right. So bike and walking, everyone just needs to learn. I think everybody knows if you go between Whistle Stop Park and the hill at the town park, I mean, that's where everybody is flying down that section of the trail. Fast, it's flat, straight. You go to other parts of the trail, it's a lot quieter. Depends on where you go. I've ridden through Schenectady, I have 4-wheelers going past me. It's been very hard. It's been a while, it's a couple of years ago.
People, different times walking on Windsor. at lunch, we're walking, and they never said they were behind us, and they just went flying by on a bike. It was like, because we didn't hear them at first, and then all of a sudden they were just, and I mean, literally he was by like that close to me. And so,
So it's always a courtesy to say, coming up
Yeah,
or
coming
up on your left. And so,
it's like, oh, well, you know, I know somebody, before you step this way for some reason and you get hit you by.
So just for the record, when someone says on your left, I never know where my left is. I just shove it. I always like, and you just go by really.
Plenty of distance before you get there.
But it doesn't work for everyone.
The legislation for this is tricky. Queensberry did, I was gonna send it to you, Laura, but I didn't want to complicate things. The whole discussion that they had about this was there. I can send it to you if you really want. Repeating material. I'll send it to you, yeah. So Queensberry did, and that's where a lot of this came from Glens Falls. Queensberry had a lot of, well, they've got the trail that goes up to Glens, to Lake George, bridge that goes over one of the roads up there and all that stuff, and they had a big issue with it, so
Just because
It's-
they have a lot of population on their trails and then
they have a lot of tourism up there, and the tourists come into town and they're just kind of
conflicting needs sometimes.
tear up the trail if they want to get to Lake George or whatever, based on what I've heard. When the tourist season is gone, flights are down. But it's just general common courtesy on the trail regardless. Of the flight.
Well, but
I think it's any of the things.
okay, but I guess New York City has the only thing for e-bikes
They
too.
actually still allow class 3 too. They allow throttle bikes. So they're all different. But that's deliveries, things like that.
Yeah.
But
Well-
it's coming. We should think about it, but it's a tough one to deal with.
Well, maybe we should just kind of like combine some of the information that we got into a little kind of like that we can just give the police department.
well, are they asking for more guidance or?
They just wanted us to study the problem and give them some recommendations on what the issue was. And the problem to them was the speed. Yeah, they've had a couple of accidents that were scary for them.
Well, part of it, I guess, is just what we're saying. It's complicated. There's no,
I know, but that's
it's not
okay.
simple.
Like, this is what the other towns are doing. This is why it's complicated and here's our recommendations. It just like, what I was looking at it too, like, what I found was similar to what Brian was saying, like best practices. A lot of best practices right now for e-bikes are just like public outreach on, you know, being a good bicyclist. And,
It's almost like anything, right? It's like, we all know how to talk on the phones in a quiet voice, and then, right, hundreds of people, millions of people are talking on a phone and speaker, and they're having like in a conversation, right? So like the technology gives people the, idea that they can, oh, I'm different, I'm special. It doesn't really apply, but like, like you said, it's common courtesy. It's an education thing. This isn't, it's a bike. It's not a motorcycle, and you've got to, act as if you're a bicyclist.
yeah.
Share the road with walkers.
Right.
I mean, are there code that some municipalities have that we feel like, look, this looks like it would fit our community?
There is.
Do we want to share something on town board? I mean, if they're like, well, we don't want to wait till somebody gets hurt, or after somebody gets hurt bad, then we have to do something. And so what's the something that we could do? And if it makes sense, let's do it now.
The main thing that codes can do in towns is limit the places they can be on town infrastructure and limit the speeds. But then
Should we start with low hanging fruit? Look at some of that.
It's on education and the fact that you have 3 different ownership entities. So that-
Well, besides the mile cuts and bike paths, what about our own paths through the town? I mean, can the town regulate those? What about the side path right out here? That's our home.
Absolutely, but no one, very few people in town are going to read this, right? It's going to be an education campaign. You're going to have to put up signage so people understand that. You're going to have to put it in the newsletter or talk about it because, let's be honest, there are 18,000 residents in town, and the vast majority of them aren't paying attention to the majority of the discussions we have about laws and regulations and planning and all that kind of stuff. So you've got to get the word out there for using the trail, which is, we're putting up signs even if it's temporary.
Well, you gotta start somewhere, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing, I mean, just the balance is if you're, you know, aging in place and you don't want to drive, but you want a bike to shop, right? And then we put up a sign that says no e-bikes, like, I mean, is that equitable and right? Because it's a mode of transportation that is allowing more mobility to people and it's reducing greenhouse gas emission. I mean, do we as a town really want to put up a sign that says no e-bikes anywhere? That's
Well, maybe Chicketti's got a bike that's got a governor on it. Will only go so fast, even though it's an e-bike.
it's true.
So you could, you know,
You could say, but
Well,
who's
is it-
going to check the governor? So
Is it the seniors who are like
Maybe.
zipping by people on their e-bikes? Like, probably not.
I mean, I think it'd be really good to just put an information sheet together and give it to them. I personally think that the more people use it on bicycles, the better.
I mean, if you're gonna educate anyone, if, like, make them show it to kids at the elementary school or the middle school, maybe the middle school. I don't know if they could do that, because that seems like who would be most likely to get an e-bike and then be zipping by people.
Yeah, like sort of the young adults.
well, I do agree on public education, but I think if you're almost pretending, hey, we're sitting on the town board, we're now getting complaints from people. Is the town gonna do something? Or they could do public education, or they could do some regulations, or is there something you put in the town code? I mean, it's sort of a member of the town board and the chief of police are saying, hey, can Police Streets look at this and give us some input? What should we do? So,
So it's all of it. It's just a matter of how much and where, how.
There are people that pass by you when you're on the bike trail and they have those big like, package things. where they're-
Saddlebags.
Yeah, they're doing the Buffalo or Albany
Right,
segment, and they're, I think I've seen some e-bikes doing that. And so that's part of the whole tourism thing too, and you wouldn't want to discourage thing either. I mean, I don't know how it applies as it goes along all those segments, but
well, I guess we gotta do some more study, right? We can't decide anything today. What about the next meeting? It's,
Could we ask the chief of police for any, like, comparison of like bike accidents, e-bike accident? I don't know if they're tracking that stuff, but like, I know that,
that's them.
I mean, I know that it would probably be year over year, there'd be a crazy hike, right? Like that would be
Might be
something.
good to have the numbers. If
Yeah.
he shares those numbers on the town board, we'd want to see them too. Are we talking 5 in a year? Or are we talking 50?
And are there injuries involved?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if it's such each other and there's complaints about it, I mean, that's one thing, but if there's injuries involved, then we want to know that.
Well, there is some mandatory health class at the high school. My son's taking it right now. That could be a topic, like maybe we ask superintendent, could that be, I don't know who sets the agenda for the health class, but and the segment on like cycling and, you know, like say, these are, you know, show the kids, these are ways you can cycle around this, you know, and then, but these are the dangers of e-biking.
We instruct say, hey, town has a complete streets committee. Let's call them.
That's what they did.
And we'll be fine.
It's okay if we don't all agree.
It runs all, I mean, it runs from that all the way up, you know, I just Googled AARP. It's already been talking about it. They've been talking about it for years. So it runs the gamut in terms of age. But it does, I mean, it's expanding the ability of people to ride. On bikes, no question about it. And it's gonna get bigger and bigger as time goes on. We're gonna have to figure out how to manage it.
In the majority and not the ones that are driving really fast and dangerously. I mean, you see people on the rail trail and then a lot of people that are just riding regular speed as everything else is.
Yeah.
They just have the electric assist.
Yeah.
Just for the elevation.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are other adults, even some on my street that they ride the bike, they pedal as long as it's okay, but when they get the hill or they're running out of steam, then they use the electric feature to, or they're biking with their friends and I need the motor to keep up with them, otherwise I get left behind. So,
And it's just expanding people's ability to ride to work. I'd be interested to see how many people are showing up at GE in the mornings on bikes and e-bikes and that type of thing. And just to go back to schools, I'll be interested to see how we end up with number of kids walking to schools once this change happens. Well, I think that's something we should look at next year. Start of school, how many bikes are in the rack, how many kids are walking in, everything right now. We have
Well,
some,
You have
I
to
mean-
look like right now, next year it's going to change. You won't have any baseline.
What's I'm saying, I'd like to compare next year
Yeah.
to this year, because we kind of know from some of the work we've done before. The bike rack has been pretty full. There are quite a few kids that walk. It's a VA. VA is where the change is happening.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
because there hasn't been any room structure change for Iroquois. So I think that's where we're gonna see a lot more. But if we got the connection through that park so that it wasn't so wet, you might get more kids going, you know, non-winter months. So, yeah,
Um,
just take that.
I mean, you probably, your kids go to VA. My child goes to Iroquois now. I see a lot of walkers. I don't think I see any bikers. I'm not sure I've ever seen.
Iroquois?
Yeah, but there are walkers. They do,
Through the park. or-
yeah, they do go out and sort of down towards, they do walk. I mean, maybe there's not that many of them. They do walk over to like Seneca and Owasco. And then there's like 2 or 3 of them that'll just keep going towards like where the roads are. I haven't seen any bicycles.
I mean, next year will be a little weird. It's just sixth grade, being all sixth grade there.
Yeah, that is
They
gonna
can
be
do
a little
work on
weird.
that. So it'll be an off year. But there are a ton of kids that ride and walk there right now. I think that's gonna change, because now we're gonna have buses like all over school, all parts of town, to all schools. It's just gonna be a bus. I'm not gonna go on my head. We've already done that.
Yeah, over roads.
well, I guess we gotta do some information collecting. We wanna get some stuff from the PD on accidents and maybe, I don't know, Brendan, is there legislation that towns have that you use to put this together? I mean,
It's all news articles and stuff.
oh,
that
I
are-
see. So
They're from their, sites. They're,
well, I guess if there's one that we like, I mean, I don't know if we could get a town ordinance and see what it looks like,
yeah,
or,
I left out some other parts of like, like the people we should contact at these towns with to maybe, but I've got that.
well, I guess just kind of looking and, I
Yeah.
mean, if there are 1 or 2 needs, it looks like, well, this town looks interesting, or I don't know if there's a one that we
There aren't
really.
that many times, but
Okay.
I did put one in the packet for you to look at. I know the
Okay.
packet just came out, but you can look at it.
So you've got one here, and I know there's one in Queensbury, which is not anything like this. It was more, it's just a resolution. Actually, I'll get you that resolution. But I'm not aware of any either. That's what we talked about, putting that document together.
Yeah.
And we're talking to NPOs across the state, and very few come up with any valid ordinance or law.
Well,
Bigger cities have them, but New York City, obviously.
Right.
this is a lot.
New York City has a lot.
Yeah, but
Yes.
they had the problem with the batteries too,
Right.
so that was an issue, but I know Buffalo has it. And, so I'm not sure, we don't want to go be as restrictive as some other communities, because we're trying to encourage biking.
I mean, the fact that Glenville is looking at this for their comp plan and they're considering e-bike infrastructure on Route 50, working with the county on Mohawk Hudson bike trail regulations. I mean, we'd want to talk to whoever's working on this in Glenville, I would think.
While we're talking, so in Westchester County, I think it goes from like White Plains down, runs alongside the Bronx River Parkway. There's the Bronx River Parkway path. That, it's very similar to the Mohawk Trail. It runs through multiple municipalities, high income areas, Scarsdale, Hartsdale, leading into Yonkers and those areas. I wonder, I don't know why I didn't think to look into it, but that would probably be a good one-to-one comparison for what these towns were doing if there is a, restriction in there. But again, the proximity to New York City might skew it a little bit because there's some issues but I'm not sure.
We can still get lessons there. Right? It's a different area.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of thing, but we can certainly learn from it. Always.
Okay, should we look at our planning project? Cause we haven't.
Yes, please.
So I think this one is similar to the Rosada Mart, which we did a lot of work on, and they are working on it, and they are going to be installing sidewalks and things. We don't have to do like major recommendations today, but this is Harry's Mobile on Algonquin Road and Troy Road. If they were going to the planning board, they're proposing to add a little to the building. But
Is that work bays or is that just more commercial space for candy, coffee and
It's
cigarettes?
there's actually both in there. The yellow is the expanded convenience and the orange is the expanded workplace. But like things that I have heard when this comes up, which I'll just, that this is kind of a grade increase here, like it kind of dips down and goes up to Route 7. And so when like cars are parked here, the sight lines are really, really bad. This is sidewalk. This is the Route 7 sidewalk. It does not go along this side of the commercial property. I don't know if that'd be useful or not. And there's also not any striped crosswalks between any of these islands. And I don't know how wide they are, but I think we should look at similar things that we looked at for Rosada Mart on this guy too.
The sight line is definitely an issue. Parking. There are like, yes, straight no parking, but it's, I think it was put in by the owner, so it's not enforceable. But cars are parked there. If there's a way to,
Like make it a curb that they can't park on.
yeah,
or
some kind of
something.
low landscaping or something.
Do they have space where they could prohibit parking there and put cars in the back or park someplace else?
Yeah, yes. That's
They
part of
should
it.
ask for that.
Yeah,
If people are already complaining it interferes with the sight line, I mean, because people are going 55 on that road, so having a good sight line to see the cars.
This is expanding the parking, right? It looks like they're putting it on the side and back. Or we just
this is the existing,
trying to.
the asphalt kind of goes like that, but if you look, there's pretty clear people. It's not really bad. What's there now? It formalizes it.
So I had three thoughts. One is I would love to see that first curb cut closed. I don't know
The
why we
line
have
to
two
the
lines
closest.
to the intersection. And then in that area specifically to deal with some of that is the issues of cars parking there would be to put in some kind of planted area in that area, low plantings, not trees or things, because they're just gonna block the view eventually anyway, unless they were, cut off some branches or a pie. That was one. The other one would be just because I don't know if they're gonna do any sidewalk work or not, but there's probably not an ADA for place at the corner there. And the only other one that I would recommend in the planning board, and they can't necessarily enforce it, would just be to ask them to be willing to talk to the town about this Route 7 border study that's coming in and any changes that might take place that might affect their frontage. Because I'm sure this is gonna be done before the plan is done. And just asking them to be willing to talk to the town. We come back later and say, hey, we want to widen that sidewalk in the side path. I know the property line doesn't go there, but I've done this to others, just say you have to only come back and talk with us. It's like saying you have to do anything. You have to only come back to the table. As part of the recommendation. So you at least have to come back and talk.
Mhm.
Then you see where you go from there. But those are the three thoughts that I had. I'd love to see that other curb cut pushed back further on. Unless it's on Onondaga, but whatever that is, but I'm not sure that would work
Because of
with the
grades.
house. Well, the grades, the house is there where they want the parking. I mean, I haven't pulled it in the back and worked my way to the front, but that is kind of across from the houses. I don't know. Well, the house is,
Well, the thing
That's a-
across the street is
that's an
actually not
insurance
this
place,
building.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pull that all the way back and make them come in the back. But they're not gonna do that. So they'd have to come in and around.
Yeah, the back is at a different grade where they put a road in. They put like a gravel road and a retaining wall in the back recently. That's my neighbor. That's my.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, they're showing that gray line.
Where the green is, right?
it is kind of a drop from Route 7.
I like the idea of closing one of the
me
entrances.
too.
Although there's a big truck that comes in and I don't know how the angle is for that maneuvering. But if they're able to do
This one.
that.
That would be the one you close that provides you more turning room, even if they had to open that slightly. But there's, I mean, more than.
Yeah, so you could just make it side there.
Right.
Yes.
Yep, continue the curve, continue the side.
But they'll probably push back on that. Well, they-
So, but I mean, we actually got Rosada Mart to basically close one of their curb
And
cuts.
this is
That's what we
curb,
do.
this is curb management, this is congestion, creating the term, I'm blanking on
They gotta get a permit from DOT, right?
it. Asset management, thank you. That's what I was looking
But don't
for.
they have to get a permit from DOT?
Well, they already.
Yeah, it's probably the pushback from them would be if they close that curb cut, it'd be hard to get back from DOT, but we don't want to get it back. from DOT. But yeah, I mean, the DOT is permitted what's there now.
They're
Right,
applying
but they're
for,
changing, are they changing the orientation of the operation there?
No,
Or
they're just
expanding?
proposing to expand the building. Yeah.
they need a variance.
Yes,
Or-
planning wise, there's a lot of issues.
Okay. Well, if they do follow through with it, if it passes, I like your idea of having a sidewalk that goes, Onondaga Road there, because it is dangerous when cars, I mean, if you could actually put a easement or something for a future sidewalk or,
No, I think you could easily fit a sidewalk.
yeah. Cause I mean, cars, like if you're walking to the gas station or whatever it may become, it's an issue because the cars turn in quickly. So having something. that
Yeah, when
just
you
goes
start to
over
get
it.
close to the intersection, it'd be nice to separate the cars from the pedestrian traffic. There's,
Yeah, I mean, you could talk about tightening up that curb to make it harder to fly onto Onondaga Road, but that would be a big undertaking. Definitely require coordination with DOT. Like you could tighten that up. Put it, I don't know, we want to go that, but that's pretty significant. But if you can push the sidewalk back, so when people, eventually have to get off, but as long as they bring it back to the road, you're at least giving people the ability to get away from those really fast turns when they're finally pushed back into the road.
Seen it this.
no,
But things are gonna probably change a lot once they do the linkage stuff.
that would be the hope.
Hopefully. Yeah.
That would be the hope. Is Onondaga the South Road too? Is it the same name?
The one across the street, I think it's.
Oh, it is a different name, but okay.
So it's an Onondaga, but I had it. 17. I'm not sure.
No, I-
Hmm?
Yeah, I know, but the gas station's actually,
Onondaga,
Oh,
that road is Onondaga.
oh, yeah, it's Randall. You're right. You're right.
It's on the Onondaga, no? Also, it's on the screen.
I know it's mislabeled on the existing. It's on Onondaga. Okay, any other comments? We'll get probably a chance to look at it again. This is the very first submission. I think that'd be good.
There's no chance that there'd be a crosswalk or something that you get across from Randall over to Onondaga eventually.
I think we have to work on the linkage study for that.
Okay.
But that to Jim's point, we should make sure that we talk about that and with
It's just the timing works to at least ask them to come back to the table if need. It may not.
yeah.
And
yeah.
obviously the property line goes back enough that there is room to work with, but whenever you do something there, you get involved as if their driveways.
We don't have any other planning project updates. I did send out the Winning Road easement letter, even though I couldn't find the. So hopefully I'll hear back from them soon. I moved the console road sidewalk concept plan down into discussion items so that we can just, check in on it occasionally. And then I did talk to Michelle Austerlich about the side path on Main Antwerp Road. She asked Paul Sheldon to go out there and take a look, so he's supposed to be going out there and hopefully walking it.
And the purpose of his look is just
Because
feasibility.
Roberta, who's come here a couple times, she collected all the signatures. She sent them directly to the county, and she was just asking for some response. So.
Is it the goal that homeowners would give permission to use their property to do the side bank? Is that the focus of talking to homeowners?
We would be the ones talking to homeowners.
Yeah, what would we be asking
Yeah.
them to do?
Yeah. There's like 4 houses on Antwerp that might need to give us.
Now, the ones that are between the trees in the road, as you get further down, it's on their property. I
I
mean,
don't see that. I think some of the Antwerp right. Have it right here. Yeah.
we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. But,
Well, no, we already have an easement on that one.
so it's
Five,
1,
yeah, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4,
5.
4.
Mhm.
So we're good to go on this without asking these people over here. Is it okay if we do this in your backyard?
Well, I think if we were to get the project to go, we should talk to them.
Oh, yeah, we have
But
to-
no, I don't think we need easements from them. But we might need easements from these, I think. But we might not. I don't know.
And if one digs in and says no, are we stuck at no, or?
With easements, it's really hard on a non-federal project to do taking of someone's property for a sidewalk, but it's possible.
So one no puts a bullet in the whole project.
It's definitely way harder, like, to do that. The federal government has a process for, compensating people for easements and stuff, which I guess you could follow, but, that's really tough.
If a homeowner said, hey, will the county send me a check for $2,000 if I give you a green light on the easement? Is that, we can always ask the county, or would they not entertain such a thing? Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'd like to
if one
think,
gets paid, they're all gonna get paid.
Yeah.
oh, you think they all would, or if one gets paid, they all? Okay, so we just say, sorry.
And all the societies to go over and.
Although I wonder if she's sort of like, is this my headache, or isn't this what complete streets supposed to do? Hmm.
I think it's a lot more compelling coming from your neighbors than from others.
I think the neighbors probably knew how bad it was. So, but the people that have bushes and nice yards, trees, so it would be an impediment. Stroke side.
It's always trade-offs in retrofits, Bill. Say that
Yeah,
every
I
time.
know, believe me,
Always a trade-off. People have to make that trade.
people were chasing me off of Birchwood with a shotgun in hand, so I know what it's like.
The sidewalk on the side of that person is really upset, or it is on the other side. But I,
But he's kind of a,
I'm sorry, so east or west side?
it's on the east side.
Okay.
she said he lived on the west side.
He lived on the west side, but he just was kind of being, oh, I don't want to shovel in snow. I don't want the liability. Matter of fact, he even said to me, if you put it on the other side, I'm okay with that. Stuff the people over there, I just don't want it on my property. And he's a renter. He doesn't even own the property.
He sent some letters to the.
He's thinking about that, but he may know about it, but he should know that.
Was it really a shotgun? Okay.
He was quite worked up though. He ended up coming, I feel like calling a couple of people. That's why I gave the surveyors my card, because I said, I know there's some people out there that are even paying attention to what you're doing.
And I would encourage people, send a picture to Laura and we'll get you a Complete Streets card so that if you're out on the street, you can actually produce a card that you're on the scene. As Jim was mentioning, I mean, now NIMO and other people, somebody's walking around the neighborhood. People start wondering, who is and what are you doing? So,
Typically, it wouldn't be an issue. I just in a conversation with a bunch of people said, oh, these people are walking around. I don't know who they are. I can't.
No,
tell."
I don't think it's to be an issue. I think it's much better to send the letters out.
Oh,
send letters first and
yeah.
then have a.
Yeah.
but everyone's paying attention just because the national stuff's going on throughout the region. So.
Yeah, but that's not actually the grid guy.
No, it's a contract.
Yeah, they
Contract. It's not national grid.
Yeah, if you get a ticket for speeding on Route 7,
The,
you can always share it with a Niskuna PD and maybe you just get a lecture.
I think the surveys are also, I'm not sure if Western Intelligence, their own department to survey, if they subcontract surveyors too. Okay, well, it's 4:30.
Okay. Now, the priority letters, I still need to do a few
Yeah, you
edits.
want, you should just come meet. with
Okay,
them.
meet with- okay.
Yeah.
Well, anything else? Anybody have one final thought or question before we?
I think we need to establish a date for our next meeting
Okay.
with the plan.
Okay.
You said 2 weeks, so.
I can send out a couple dates for the end of next week and the beginning of the week after.
Yeah, that's fine.
Our next meeting, It's December 9th.
December 9th.
Yeah, we skipped November.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it interferes with Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we, because we have the second half of the month. So we just do an early one. in December.
You'll send an email in December asking who wants to stay on. Anybody gets reappointed on January.
Unless you don't want to. Yeah.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
So
I was gonna vote,
25th Meeting in December.
December the 9th, yes.
No, December.
No,
No.
you just found that it interfered with Thanksgiving and then December.